This is Tyrese Haliburton, and you're listening to Setting the Pace.
What is going on, Pacer Nation? Welcome back to another episode here of your go-to Pacers podcast, Setting the Pace. I'm your host, Alex Golden, here to recap the Pacers' 129-111 victory over the Los Angeles Clippers with Michael J. Facci. Facci, the Pacers never once trailed in this game. Largest lead was 22 points. This was a fun one.
This really was keeping the good times rolling. In 2025, Indiana improves to 16-5, the best record behind only OKC. I think right now the Pacers are playing some really good basketball, coming off of the break, and I don't care that the Clippers were without Norman Powell and Kawhi Leonard. We have struggled in the games where you overlook the teams that have players out. Tonight was not the occasion for Indiana. They took care of business, like you said, never trailed.
Yeah, I mean, go back just a couple of weekends ago, they lost to the Lakers without LeBron and Luka. And it's one of those things where you're trying just to figure things out. Like, I know they were ready for the All-Star break, but this team has lost to, games to too many times with players that aren't playing. And it's just like, when stars aren't playing, you should win those games. And so the Pacers absolutely put their foot on the gas, didn't take it off. It was really a breath of fresh air just to kind of watch this team coast to a victory. It felt like they were pretty much in control of the game for the majority of the time. Maybe a few minutes here and there where it was a little bit closer than you like. But, I thought, honestly, you just got to start with Miles Turner. The first quarter that Miles Turner had was phenomenal. He was hitting some big-time shots and just reminding you how important he is to this team. But let's start there with Miles quickly. I know we have some other players to talk about, but I just feel like Miles shot the ball incredibly well. 4 of 8 from 3, 5 of 11 from the field, 17 points, 6 rebounds, 4 assists. What were your thoughts on Miles tonight?
I think he's doing it like in shifts. So to go back to the last game, he had 15 points in the second quarter, and it was a huge quarter where Indiana needed him. In this game, 17 points for the game. All 17 came in the first half. I feel like Turner was that guy in the first half that was really, really reliant for the Pacers. He was knocking down threes. It was great to see. And then I feel like from there, and we'll get into some of the other players, it was like then it went on to Tyrese, carrying his load. But for the first half, it was Miles Turner. And in the process of dropping 17 points, he moves into 6th place in franchise history, passing Herb Williams for points, scored in franchise history. I looked at it. If Miles is to return to the Pacers next year, he can go as high as number 3 just next year. That's how quickly he's climbing the ranks in so many statistical categories. It feels like each and every game. What was it? Was it rebounds? Just
Yeah,
other
7th in rebounds, or ninth in rebounds, excuse me.
ninth in rebounds. I mean, he already owns the blocks franchise record. Moving up now to 6th in points. Shout out to Miles Turner.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up. He also had 2 blocks tonight to continue adding to that total of blocks. And he was a team best plus 27 in this game, Fachi. So he was phenomenal once again. And it just kind of, I think, honestly, like the extra time he got off from that injury he suffered against the Clippers last time with Mathurin, I think he just kind of needed that little bit of a break to kind of get his legs, a little bit fresher. And he obviously was rusty in that first quarter or that first half. No, it was the first quarter. It was the first quarter of the last game they played on was it Friday night or Thursday night, excuse me, and they returned against the Grizzlies. Ever since then, he's been in fuego, but plus 27, the best of the game, like I said. But Tyrese Haliburton, like you said, is probably the story of this game.
Yeah.
29 points, 12 assists. I believe I tweeted out responsible for 56 of the Pacers and 129 points based on his scoring and assisting. This is the Haliburton we're used to seeing. This is the Haliburton that we need to show up on a more consistent basis. And over the last 2 games, he's really showed why he is a special player. And wow, this was a really fun one to watch from Tyrese.
Really was 29 points, like you said. 17 of them come in the third quarter. It's an extremely efficient 9 of 14 from the field for Haliburton. I just feel like that third quarter, he was the guy that never let the Clippers get anywhere remotely close. So it was awesome to see. Hitting from a 3-point land, got to the free throw line quite a few times in that third quarter. I believe it was like 4 of 4 from the free throw line. So awesome to see. Now, I know you talked about the last 2 games. If we just go back the last 3 games, he's averaging 23.6 points per game on 53% shooting, 9.3 assists per game to just 1.3 turnovers. So, talking about a 9-to-1 assist to turnover ratio, that's like classic Tyrese. He's been efficient from the field. He scored 20 or more in 3 straight games. And we talked about the stat that Tyler Smith brought up, last time. Now Indiana improves to 18-2 when Tyrese drops 20 points. I mean, 18-2. He's now mentioned it. It's come out of his mouth the last 2 games that this team is better when he's more aggressive. I feel like he knows it. He's making it a point of emphasis, and it's translating to wins.
And one thing we have to just acknowledge too, he's not trying to force points early on in the game.
No.
Look, how many did you say he scored in the third quarter again?
17 of his 29.
Okay, that's a massive percentage of what he scored, right? And he does it in this spurt where he hit like three threes back to back. It was just crazy. Like he's going on this run in the fourth quarter or third quarter, excuse me. And you're like, this is so refreshing to see because when he gets hot, like, man, that's a lot of points he can put up in a quick second because he's shooting the ball so well. And I know that the people want him to be more aggressive. Like 14 shots led the team, but it didn't even feel like it was that many
No.
because this team really did, spray the ball out pretty well. Like all the starters had double-digit attempts, and it's not common to see that. So it was very good to see Tyrese kind of pick his spots. And I think at the end of the day, like I said, it doesn't matter when he scores. It's just at the end of the day, people want to see in the box score that he was the top in field goal attempts or around the top. And if he gets over 20 points, people are going to be happy. So, like I said, if he comes out and plays well, this is a team that is going to continue to just flourish when he's at his best, right? Because they can only go as high as he takes them. And it's crazy to say this, and I'm not trying to be negative right now, but Pascal Siakam the last two games has been pretty quiet. And this is your all-star, and he's, not really been needed out there. And I think a part of that is because you've had other players like Turner, like Haliburton, and I would even say Mather in the previous game really stepped up and kind of took that load from Pascal where he didn't have to carry as much weight.
I agree. Siakam had just 2 points at halftime, and they talked about it after the game. They really tried to get him involved in that third quarter. He came out in the third quarter. He scored the first five for Indiana, but still a quiet performance. Last game, we said it was like a quiet 16. This is 12 points. It was 12 points on 4 of 12 shooting. I do want to give him credit. He led Indiana with 12 rebounds. Great to see. But from a scoring option, this is once again just balanced Pacer basketball. Back-to-back games now with 7 players scoring in double figures. To say, hey, if Siakam's only going to give you 12, are you going to win or not? Most of the time, you'd probably say, probably not. But in this game, hey, it all worked out. And I think that Siakam probably doesn't care of what he scored as long as we won. But I definitely did see the emphasis for, he was 1 of 5 in the first half, to get him the rock in the beginning of that third quarter, get him active. And I know, he finishes the game 4 of 12, but, nonetheless, hey, he did what he needed to do. He contributed to winning basketball, and that was part of the big rebounding effort that we saw by this Pacers team, who absolutely crushed the Clippers on the glass. They out-rebounded them 46-31. Remember, this was only the third time this season that Indiana has out-rebounded a team by 10 or more, and we always feel like Indiana is usually on the opposite end of the rebounding battle. Tonight, I feel like that was a big reason why they were able to get this win.
Rebounding's massive, and I think part of it was just shot making from the Clippers. They didn't shoot the ball particularly well, just 44% from the field and 25 from three, but a lot of that came with good defense, and they looked tired at times. I mean,
Yeah.
I feel like the pace the Pacers played really disrupted them. I thought Kalen Cooper did a great job pointing out when the Pacers switched to zone and how it kind of threw them out of what they were running offensively. I noticed that they went to zone. I think it was maybe in the second quarter when I really noticed it, and it just kind of took Zubac out of what he was doing. So really good stuff to counter what the Clippers were doing to kind of stay afloat. But Indiana really got in there and forced their way to get a bigger lead. But yeah, this was a game where defense was present for Indiana. I felt like the only thing I didn't like was they were fouling a little bit too much for my liking.
Yeah.
Felt like they were a little bit out of control with their fouling, but
Especially at the end of the first half, they
yeah, it
started
was bad.
fouls. They gave the Clippers like an easy 5 points right before halftime of just like Siakam didn't give Harden, I think, or whoever it was, enough room on the 3-point attempt, and
Was it coffee?
fouls. Yeah, maybe it was. I think it was. I think it was. And I was like, oh, come on! Like, although it was a good first half, yeah, they were definitely picking up fouls in bunches at times.
Yeah, but anyway, I mean, just a really solid game. And let's be honest here, Aaron Nesmith. Can we
Season
say that he's
high,
back? Can we
19.
say Aaron Nesmith is back?
I think we can. This is a season high 19. And I looked at it because I was like, okay, well then what was the season high before? It was 13, which he scored in the previous game. So now this is like back-to-back strong performances by Aaron Nesmith. And he also talked to the post-game conference where it's like he needs to do a better job rebounding. Like he knows he needs to be a more active rebounder. He pulled down 6 rebounds. That was the second most by a Pacer. And I feel like Aaron Nesmith, 7 of 11 from the field, 19 points in just 25 minutes. Like, this is the Aaron Nesmith that we do remember. And this is now back-to-back games where he's had at least 6 rebounds. The defense has been there. He's not playing, a ton of minutes. He's being very productive in 25 or less minutes. I definitely love what I saw tonight, and he deserves, one of those shout outs.
Yeah, I mean, if you think about it this way, Facci, he ends up going, I believe it is 5 of 6 from two. So only missed one 2-pointer. And he shot 40% from three, which is a very average number. That's the league average that you want to be around. Maybe it's around 38%. So a little bit above league average, but like that's that threshold you want to hit is 40% from three. He does that going 2 of 5. And defensively, he's just going to be out there playing hard-nosed defense every single time. And so I felt like he really impacted the Memphis game with his offensive rebounding, crashing the glass, stuff like that. In this game, it was just a quiet to me. It was a quiet scoring punch from him, but it just felt like with Indiana leading so much, everything just kind of felt like, okay, this feels like, okay, you're just trying to stay at arm's length. And unless you went on like a massive run of individual points, right, it didn't feel like you were like heavily impacting the game in that moment because of how well it was all spread out with like, McConnell getting 13 off the bench, Toppin getting 10, and then all 5 starters scoring in double digits. It just didn't feel like there was like one person really just taking over the game, except for like you mentioned, Turner in the first half and then Haliburton in the second half. So it was nice to see that. But overall, I think the starters looked really good. Nembhard once again just doing Nembhard things, making things difficult. But James Harden is going to do what James Harden does, and that's make baskets, make tough shots. I mean, almost had a near triple double with 31, 11, and 7. But if he's the only one really doing anything in the game, you got to feel pretty good about it because my God, Bogdanovich couldn't hit the broadside of a barn tonight.
Yeah, no, you really couldn't. Going back to James Harden real quick, you see 31 points, and it's like, okay, he must have killed it. In the first half, he did. He had 22 of his 31 in the first half. I thought Indiana defended him very well in the second half. And look, you never know what you're going to get at James Harden. Like, he could get hot at any point and just kind of will a team. And I felt like he was really all that the Clippers had going in that first half. Zubac had some strong, takes to the rim at times. And when he did, I did get a little PTSD of that, like 31 point, 29 rebound game, whatever it was last year, 2 years ago. Like, that was such a crazy game that I'm like, he's not going to do it again, right? So it was good that I think the Clippers just didn't have the firepower to really be able to keep up without Powell and without Kawhi Leonard. So Indiana now beats, LA, the Clippers. I believe that is a season series between them. They win both games. So, great to see. And, you touched on the starters for Indiana. Fantastic. The bench for, Bogdanovich, just 1 of 8 from 3, 4 of 13 from the game. I mean, he was their trade deadline pickup. Ben Simmons was another one where, like, you could see some defense here and there, but like, I was just watching Ben Simmons. It's the first time I've seen him in a Clippers jersey, like watching a Clippers game, and I'm just like, oh man, I just don't think he's ever going to get it back. I really don't. I feel like he's just now sort of just like a role player that's no longer making $40 million. When you have the $40 million price tag attached to him, things get worse. Maybe people can just have him settle in as a role player now.
Can we talk about that time I think it was the second quarter? He like gets the mismatch on Mathurin. I guess you could call it a mismatch because he felt like he was taller than him.
Yeah.
He slams on Mathurin like 4 times, maybe gets about 5-6 feet away from the basket, tries throwing a hook shot up and it rims out. Pacers get the rebound and Quinn Buckner's like, he's lost his confidence as an offensive player. I'm just
like, yeah, laughing. What, 5 years ago? Like, I mean, it's just, yeah, it's just he's very kind of average on offense. Like, that's just what he is, and it's
it's like, what is there to be excited about? Like, when I see Ben Simmons, I have no fear. Like, I'm not trying to be mean. Like, I understand some people were like, yeah, we should bring him in as like a third string center. Like,
I remember that
stuff, and I'm like, okay, like sure, but like, he needs the ball in his hands to really be impactful. If not, I mean, it's kind of sad. It really is because like he was really good there for a while in Philly, and then that whole playoff series against the Hawks. Trae Young and them just kind of ended his career, it feels like. So
I know. I mean, not many people have their life changed on like one play. It's like if he lays that ball in instead of like passing it, like, is his career different? I don't know. It sounds crazy to even say, but this is a guy that was a multiple-time All-Star that has never even remotely come close to looking like that again. So, one thing that we didn't talk about earlier, though, a little change of subject, is Tyrese cracked double-digit assists, 12 assists, first time since January 10th.
Yeah,
so I hope we can, quiet down some of the haters and just to, pump up Tyrese a little bit because I know how some of the comments have been when Tyrese isn't living up to it, and I get it. There was like a lot of tweets going out over the weekend of just a series of stats. And a couple of those stats is Tyrese leads the NBA in field goal percentage on drives at 60.1%. And then what I mentioned last episode, Tyrese leads the NBA in 3-point percentage in the clutch at 40.7%. So I know people are hard on him at times, and rightfully so. But you could just see how special this guy is at times. And like I mentioned, the last 3 games, he's been awesome. It's the post All-Star break. Hey, let's give him a little bit of a clean slate. All that really matters is how you play from here on out.
What did I tell you off air before we started? He's been sleeping in his own bed. It makes a difference.
You did say that. I think the man's well rested. He's looking good.
Yeah, we said we didn't want to see him during All-Star Weekend. We wanted to see him get away, come back, fresh, and I think he did just that. I think it was smart of him to just get away for a little while, come back. I mean, my goodness, I love Spicy Tyrese because we got a little beef on Twitter between him and Tim Hardaway Sr., former Pacers point guard. So he's like, tell him what really happened. I'm like, whoa, what's going on here? Why does Tim Hardaway Sr. hate Tyrese Haliburton so much? I mean, I know there's some speculation out there of what could have happened, but just like, this is pretty interesting stuff to me. I don't know if you dove into it anything or not.
I did dive into it, and it's juicy. And there's a belief.
Are we ready for it? I think the fans want to hear this.
All right. Well, hey, here's what I read. If you didn't know this, or if you did, Tyrese's cousin is actually Eddie Jones. And Eddie Jones and Tim Hardaway were teammates back in the day. And there is a major belief that Eddie Jones and Tim Hardaway's wife or girlfriend or whoever it may have been at the time, might have hung out a couple times. We'll put it that way. And there is a big belief that Tim Hardaway just kind of hates Tyrese Haliburton and the family and was kind of taking a shot at him. Now Tyrese isn't going to spell that out, but I watched like a 2-minute video of someone breaking it down, going through all the details. So you guys can look that up. I thought it was really juicy, and if that is the reason why, it's like, because some people were like, oh man, because Tyrese is probably busting Tim Hardaway Jr.'s butt in games, and I'm like, I don't think that's it. It's got to be deeper than that, and it very well may be.
But it's so petty for an old man to be doing this. It's like, when did that whole thing happen with Eddie Jones? Like 20 years ago?
Eddie Jones' cousin. It's not even Eddie Jones' son. It's like.
Who cares if it was? Like, that's between him and Eddie Jones. Like, what are you getting the family involved for? Like, how stupid are we?
I agree. It was crazy. Look, Tim Hardaway has been pretty outspoken in the past. I don't think it's done him any favors. We'll put
some really controversial stuff.
Yes, he's said some very controversial stuff, and I think each time he's probably given a platform to say some stuff that probably hasn't gone the way he's wanted to. Tyrese, hey, maybe he's using his motivation. I don't know, but he's heating up right now, and I think it would add a little extra fuel to the fire if we were going to play the Pistons again, because that would be an opportunity for Tyrese and Tim Hardaway Jr. to just kind of go out. Even though Tim Hardaway Jr. is probably like, look, I got no beef with you. Hey, take it up with my dad. I'm pretty
sure I've seen them dapping up after games.
Yeah, like I don't think there's bad blood there at all, but sometimes you got to kind of defend the words of your dad, like we've seen with like the ball kids and things like that. So it happens.
All right, well, let's get back to the game. We haven't talked about the bench enough, and I want to just highlight Obi Toppin tonight because I thought Obi Toppin was really fun in this game. Did some really incredible things, and I don't know if this is a Pacers career high or not, but 6 assists was incredible tonight.
That was awesome.
He was really showcasing a little bit more of his game than just kind of being a 3-point shooter or a dunker. But we saw some really cool dunks, the tomahawk dunk that he had in the first half when Quinn Buckner about lost his mind, and then Tyrese throwing that gorgeous between the legs fast break dunk to Obi. They put it in slow motion. I really thought Obi could have done a little bit more with that dunk. I felt like I gave it like an 8 out of 10 in terms of like Obi's finish. I feel like Obi could have gone behind the back, done a reverse, like almost even done a windmill, but play it safe, don't get in trouble, get the points. I understand like that's the right thing to do in a game, but like, yeah, I just thought it was a really good game from Obi Toppin. And I know I've been critical of him, the past couple of weeks, but when he's been good, I've given him praise. So I want to say like Obi Toppin was awesome in this game tonight.
No, he really was. And I know you talked about those dunks. If you guys listening right now have not seen some of those dunks, in specific, the one Alex described with Tyrese going through his legs, you have to look that up. That is like something out of a movie. It was an incredible dunk. And I'm also glad that Obi didn't do too much because we remember like that fast break against the Knicks where like it was so wide open that he, did too much. But the 6 assists does match a Pacers career high. He had 6 assists last April against Cleveland. So 6 assists for Obi Toppin, definitely out of the norm. Great to see. Rebounds solidly, 5 boards. He's now had at least 5 rebounds each of the last 3 games. But also scored in double digits each of the last 3 games on very efficient shooting. So that's been great to see. Just felt like the bench overall, McConnell had his moments where he was playing good, but we didn't talk about it. I know you had a video that you tweeted out. McConnell injured his ankle. It looked it was hard to like get the severity of that because it didn't look like in the moment a lot happened, but I don't know if he stepped on someone's foot or whatever it is, but the way he went down made it look a lot worse than what the video shows.
Yeah, I mean, it looked almost like he stepped on his own foot or like planted wrong or something. Like I didn't really see him hit Chris Dunn's foot in that
Neither did
video,
I.
but maybe I just didn't get a clear look of it or whatever. But yeah, it was like
God.
he went down, and then like a second later, James Harden went down on his shot attempt. I don't know. People were saying Harden was flopping, but still, I don't know. Like Harden, he takes a lot of like crazy jumps on his shots. Like it wouldn't surprise me if somebody hit his foot. Like I think it might have been Neesmith in the vicinity. If not Neesmith, maybe somebody else. But yeah, just really tough there for McConnell because if it was serious, right? Like could it keep him out for a while, and how will that impact things? Because look, we understand like they've got Andrew Nemhard, they've got another point guard they can play if need be, right? And so they can play Nemhard with the backup five and things like that. But McConnell has just been such a like a little engine for that bench unit. I know that there's other guys like Choo Choo, right? Like
Yeah.
I know Obi's had some good moments, and Mathurin can kind of be that lead scorer for that team. But it's just like you kind of need that facilitator, someone to kind of give Ty and Nemhard a break, and that's what's so good about McConnell. So I think it will muck things up a little bit in terms of just chemistry if you don't have McConnell out there. So he goes 5 of 5 tonight. It's just a really, really impactful game offensively. But if he's not able to play, which I wouldn't be surprised if they do hold him out because it is the second night of a back-to-back, I'm going to be interested to see how they kind of try to counter that. And is there maybe a chance Jarris gets to play a little bit more? Because we know Jarris is known for his passing, so you get an extra passer out there. But I think they'll probably just go to a 9-man rotation and play Shepherd a little bit more. Shepherd's also known for his passing, did a little bit of point guard play, I think, in high school. So not saying he's someone that really should be handling the ball, but I know that they'll probably try to stagger some of Nimhard's minutes to play with the second unit if McConnell can't go, which means Shepherd probably gets more minutes with that starting five, or Mathurin gets a heavier load. But I think they just got to try to balance it out. Thankfully, nobody played super heavy minutes tonight.
Yeah, the thing is with McConnell, I'm with you. I don't know if we're going to see him against Denver. I know Rick said in the post-game conference like he'll at least be questionable, but that's a quick turnaround. McConnell made it seem like he could have went back into that game, but it didn't make any sense. When McConnell came out is when Haliburton went back into the game with about 5 minutes to go. There was a moment where I wondered if Haliburton wasn't going to play the fourth quarter at all and just be able to like get some solid rest for this Denver game. And I think that you could see that no starter played more than I think it was 30 minutes. I think Miles played 31, but for the most part, everyone was at 30 minutes, and then you got Neesmith at 25. So I felt like they did a good job of keeping players relatively fresh. Like Mathurin only played 21 minutes in this game. Quiet game for Benedict Mathurin. But maybe I'm thinking that maybe he plays more minutes against Denver because he's got fresher legs.
Yeah.
So that's a possibility, but obviously, not, known for his passing or anything of the sort. But I'm wondering if maybe Mathurin, we see him play more minutes against Denver. I would imagine they're going to need him to. But, always tough to play the second night of the back-to-back, especially against a really good team. But for tonight, I mean, there just really wasn't anything to complain about. This was just a good Pacer performance. They handled business, like we said, never trailed, led by as many as 22, and I'm glad that no one had to overdo it late. Like 30 minutes, that's totally reasonable for your starters.
No, I think it is, Facci. I'll be interested to see what they do. I think it's a really interesting storyline just because of what McConnell brings. But you're right. I mean, the Pacers need a lot of scoring, and I think they're going to need scoring against this team in Denver because Denver is coming off of a loss on Saturday night to the Los Angeles Lakers. So they're going to be ready to get back on track. I think they had won 10 games in a row before that too. So for them to lose to the Lakers on national TV in a convincing fashion, I think Jokic had 7 shot attempts against the Lakers on Saturday night. So I'm sure he'll come out ready to play. I'll be really interested to see how Miles does against Jokic as well, because Miles has kind of taken that matchup like as a challenge. Like, why wouldn't you? Like, Jokic is like a multi-time MVP, but like we were there at that game against Denver when Ben Mathurin was just cooking his rookie season in that first half, and so we could use a vintage rookie Mathurin moment
Oh yeah,
against the Nuggets in
that
this
would be
game where he
awesome.
just comes in guns a-blazing. But I'm not trying to look too much at the standings, but once again, the Milwaukee Bucks find a way to weasel their way into another victory. This is 4 games in a row for the Bucks. They beat the Warriors. They beat the Timberwolves, and they went on All-Star break. Come back and beat. Excuse me. They didn't beat the Warriors. They beat the Timberwolves. Went to All-Star break. Beat the Clippers. Beat the Wizards barely by 3. Chris Middleton missed a 3 at the end there to tie the game, and then at home they were down by 8 points, I believe it was, heading into the fourth. They outscore the Heat 35-20 to win by 7 in the fourth quarter, and now they're just a half game back of Indiana still for the 4th spot. So if Indiana loses this game to Denver on Monday night, that means that the Pacers will fall back to the 5th seed. So they just have to kind of keep winning these games. I know that Milwaukee is eventually going to, you know, find its level. Like they're going to play the Rockets and they're going to play the Nuggets in the month, so they could lose 2 in a row. And they got the Thunder and the Warriors and Lakers after that, so their schedule gets tough. But I'm just saying, right now you can't afford to
No.
be losing games, especially with Milwaukee just lurking right there in the 5th seed.
No, you really can't. And I think that, the Indiana hit a little bit of that tough stretch. I know it was just 2 games, or you could say 3 out of 4, losing to Portland, LA, New York. You should have beat Portland, even though they were playing really good basketball. You should have beat the Lakers, given there was no LeBron and Luka. The next game, then that's up for debate. But I think that if Indiana can get by Denver, I mean, the schedule, it's very winnable. Like there is a big opportunity here. And you don't want to ever look too far ahead by any means. But the Knicks right now are shaky. The Knicks are shaky, and I think if Indiana can hold their ground slowly, they can gain some ground on the Knicks. The stats come out now because over the last couple days, I mean the Knicks they got smacked by Cleveland. They lost by Boston, to Boston earlier today while we're recording this. They're now 0-7 against the top 3 teams in the league. And I started looking at it, and it's like the Knicks' best wins in the season outside of Denver is against the Pacers. They don't have a lot of like great marquee wins. They're just beating down on the teams that they should beat. So, we obviously know these teams won't meet again in the regular season, and Indiana does have at least 2 more games against the Milwaukee Bucks. So things will get interesting, but I think if Indiana can get through Denver, I mean, they have a great opportunity against Toronto, Miami, Chicago, then obviously I'm not going to keep going down so much, but there's very winnable games coming up over the next, it's a big road trip, coming up where you're going to play 6 out of 7, not too long from now. I still got some time, but Indiana's making the most out of these games at home. They've won now 2 of their first, 2 of the first 4 games that they're going to play at home. So let's just take it one game at a time, bring on the Denver Nuggets. Let's see what we can do.
Absolutely, and if you're looking here at the Eastern Conference standings, it's pretty wild. There's a lot of winning going on in the top 6.
There
The
is.
Cavs have won 6 in a row. The Celtics have won 5 in a row. The Pistons have won 5 in a row. The Bucks have won 4 in a row. And the Pacers have won 3 in a row. Meanwhile, the Knicks have lost 2 in a row. So,
Yep.
Knicks are just 6-4 in their last 10 games. But Indiana, Detroit 7-3 in their last 10 games, and then Boston and Cleveland 9-1. So, I guess my question to you, Facci, is like I know a lot of fans are talking about, the Pacers could climb to 3. Do you really want that? I'm just asking. Do you
Yeah,
want
no,
that?
we've talked about it. Look, if that's the scenario and you win in the first round, you're running into Boston in the second. So I have one of my longtime college roommates, lived with the guy for like 3 years. She's a diehard Knicks fan. We were talking about the only way for us to really meet if things stay kind of the way they are is in the conference championship. So it's very unlikely that if things remained how they are right now, that we would run into the Knicks in any scenario. And I'm happy because if the Pacers can stay where they are and you could win in the first round and you could play Cleveland, I've said it before. I think Cleveland very much probably peaked at the wrong time. Still playing really good basketball. But like the way they were playing in the first 20, 30 games of the season, anything like that was head and shoulders above, I think, every other team in the league.
Mm.
And it's a long season for a reason. And no matter what you did in October, November, December, it doesn't matter anymore. All that matters is the type of basketball that you're playing in April and May, and arguably June if you can make it that far. So, yeah, I'm with you. I don't want to play Boston in the second round. Let's delay it as long as we can.
Yeah, let's let's delay it as long as we can. Let's just keep winning games on the schedule, not worry about the playoffs yet. But I'm just keeping that in the back of my mind because it does make me not nervous, but it's just if I want to see the Pacers play basketball for 3 playoff rounds, I feel more comfortable about them playing Boston in the Eastern Conference Finals again than I would play them in the semifinals, and then that would be tough to do. I do think that Cleveland is very good, and I would not be surprised
Yeah.
if Cleveland won a 7-game series in round 2 against the Pacers. Like they
Yeah,
should be the favorites. They've been really good this year.
they
They
should.
do present some problems, but Indiana went in there on their home floor and beat them. So
Yep.
and it did it without Halliburton that second half. So I believe it was. Kenny Atkinson talked about how Ben Shepherd came in there in that second half and really just mucked things up defensively. And
Mm-hmm.
I'm pretty sure Neesmith wasn't back for that game yet either.
It's
So
not. Yep.
yeah, I mean, it's just a weird dynamic, but like they're a good team. We'll see what happens. But Pacers playing great basketball right now. It's great to see, like you said, second best record in the year 2025, and wow, it's great to see. They're just really gelling right now, and it's great for them to continue to do that because as they get more chemistry, this team is only going to be more and more dangerous come playoff time.
No, it is. I'm having a blast, and it's like it just feels like already like two different seasons to the way that they started out.
For
It was
sure.
rough. I mean, we've been honest with you guys. It was hard to podcast in the beginning of this season because it was like here's another loss to Toronto, another loss to Charlotte. Like these are teams that we knew that we weren't playing up to our best ability when like they should be beating those teams. And now we're seeing Indiana take care of business. We're seeing them whether they have to claw back from being down 20 against Washington to get it done. Great, we saw them do that. Where you have to beat a Clippers team without some players, okay, we didn't overlook them. Whatever needs to happen. Memphis. I mean, that let's put it this way. How about this? Memphis gave up scored the most points in the NBA coming into that game, and Indiana handled them. The Clippers play really good defense. They came into this game only giving up 108 points per game, and Indiana drops 129 on them.
Yeah.
Even if they're without players, it doesn't matter. It's a team effort. Indiana handled the Clippers, handled Memphis. We're taking on some of the best teams that the West has to offer. Next up's OKC. Look, I'm not going to make any bold
Denver,
predictions.
not OKC.
That's what I meant. I don't know why I said OKC. I guess I was just naming good teams in the West. But when we went through our predictions, you had Indiana beating Memphis. I didn't. I had Indiana beating the Clippers. Obviously, we didn't know who would be in or out in that game. I picked Denver to win this game. I don't remember what you picked.
I
Did you
picked
pick
Denver to win the game too.
Yeah, like look, it's the second night of a back-to-back against arguably, most likely the MVP and a guy who's won quite a few MVPs. It's gonna be tough, but
Yeah.
I'm not counting the Pacers out. I'm really not. There it is. Hey, you got old
I kept
school
it here.
written on a piece of paper. That's the
Yellow
best
paper,
way
baby.
there.
My wife got this for me, I think last year for a stocking stuffer type thing, or for I
Get
don't
the
even remember
good
what it was
news.
for, but she's like, I figured you could write notes down for your podcast. So, whenever we do this kind of schedule thing, I just write it down because it's fun to kind of follow along and see what you do. And yeah, so I enjoy doing it, and then I put mine out there, and then based on what I agreed with, I put a check mark with you if we had the same thing, and if we were different, I put
Ah,
an X, so I knew which ones were different. So
nice.
both went 3-2 though in the month of February. I would love to see that be 4-1. So
Yeah.
it's
No,
gonna be
I
tough.
definitely
I
agree
think
with
they're
you.
on the road in Milwaukee or Minnesota, excuse me, to end the month. So we'll see what happens. But good stuff for the Pacers to get things started off with 2 victories after the All-Star break, get back on their winning ways. And everybody seems to be playing pretty well. And the one guy that probably hasn't played the best is the guy that's been the best player all season, Pascal Siakam. So you gotta like the direction of this team. And we know Pascal is gonna figure things out sooner rather than later. So it's good that they haven't needed him to be the guy that he's been all year, but you want to get him back to that with everybody playing at their high level and just see what this team can actually do. But my God, it's been a lot of fun to talk about him, like you said, since that rough 10 and 15 start. So other than that, nothing else to really add here, Facci. If you didn't catch the episode on the weekend, I did release the origin story of Setting the Pace, the one that Derek Schultz had me come on and do an interview for that he put out in the Indianapolis Business Journal. That was made into a Q&A article. If you want the full lengthy version of it, you can listen to that podcast here on our feed. If you don't want to listen to that, if you want to read it, there's been some pictures posted and things like that on social where you can read it. I really appreciate all the support and all the kind words over the last couple of days. But Facci and I are just really excited about the future of the show and all that you guys have brought to the table in terms of your fandom, interactions with us, and just making Setting the Pace what it is. So, Facci, I'll give you a quick second to kind of close things out here
Yeah.
because I've been rambling, but I'm really
Oh, no.
appreciative.
I mean, based off everything you talked about, look, there is no show, there is no article, there is no audio on any of that without you guys. I mean, you guys are what makes the show with the questions that you send in, the hype, getting in on the inside jokes that we come up on this show. Like that's what makes this fun. And I think that talked about when the Pacers are playing good basketball. I mean, that's when you and I love to podcast, and that's when you guys clearly love to listen. And I think that we could see the difference, but we could also see all of you guys that stuck with us through a hard part of this season. And some of the seasons in the past have been tough. That's why I say that we have the best listeners out there. So appreciate all the support you guys have ever showed us. I'm hyped that this team is playing great basketball to be able to match, the fan base, the loyalty. Tonight was a sellout against the Clippers. So
let's go.
Hey, it was packed out there. It shows Indiana's playing great basketball. Let's keep the good times rolling. I know I've talked about a pep and a step on a Friday morning. Sometimes Monday mornings could be a little bit rough, but I'll tell you one thing that helps. It's a little bit of that pep in the step. So Monday mornings, it's going to be a little bit better.
What are you more excited about, Facci? Going into work tomorrow knowing the Pacers won, or the fact that we're going to be done recording before 9 o'clock tonight so this old man can get some sleep?
It's got to be the second. I mean, there was a time where we didn't record and I was knocked out cold by 8:45 sleeping. So the fact that we're going to be done at a reasonable hour, we're not talking midnight. Woo, this old man's got to get some rest.
The pep in the step to bed will be greater tonight for Facci.
It will.
So hope you all have a good pep in the step today, tomorrow, whenever you're listening to this. But thank you all so much for your support. And Facci, if you're hoping the Pacers can extend this winning streak against the Denver Nuggets, then hit me with those 3 words.
Let's go, Pacers.